Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Awesome. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the John Peckman podcast. We are live here in the Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance podcast studio. Come over the bridge and look left, and we're right on the left-hand side. So we got a special guest with us tonight. A good old friend of mine who actually used to work here. In fact, they actually used to live here a long time ago, Mr. Paul Sienkiewicz, a.k.a. Mr. Paul Christopher. How you doing, Paul?
Good, Dave. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Thanks for coming down. I caught you at the brewery Saturday night, or is it Friday night?
Sunday
night.
Afternoon.
Sunday.
Brewery, yep.
There you go.
It's my home away from home in Portland. They treat me real well. It's a real nice place.
Yeah. Drew down there does a great job with the brews and all that kind of stuff. So they do a lot of good stuff. So anyway, how you been?
Good.
Yeah. So tell me.
Well.
That's you're playing all over the place. You play down there. You play at the winery. You're all over the place.
This is the time of year to start doing that. Yeah. Most of my stuff has been outdoor, and now that COVID seems to be kind of on the subsiding end,
yeah,
more places are open.
Yeah.
But,
thank God.
I'm here at the Aragoni Winery. Concentric Brewery. I got a couple of dates all summer out at Poe's Rice and Spice, which is in East Hampton, Connecticut.
My son loves that place, man. The outdoor patio.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, it really does.
The food is good. The staff is nice, she treats She treats her staff really well. Those kids, they're happy to serve you.
Oh, that's great.
That's a nice thing. I do some private stuff with the Polish Falcons in Middletown.
Oh, okay.
I've got a benefit for the Ukraine coming up. I think it's Friday, May 13th. I'll be doing over there.
Really? Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So, to give everybody a little context, actually, you used to work for us here years and years ago. My God.
Not only that, if you remember, this is where I actually studied voice.
Yes.
For about 7.5 years.
Yeah.
That was my first experience.
With Liz Jones.
With Elizabeth Brody Jones, right?
Yes.
Which I was lucky to work with, and it's unfortunate we've lost her.
Yeah, I know. That was tragic.
She was a wonderful lady, and I think it's just bettered me to have her, and it's great to be involved here and have a music store in Portland, in my hometown.
Oh well, thanks a lot. I appreciate that, and we're here and been here. I think we're embarking on our 39th year, and so forth. And it's Ron and I bought the store back in I think 1983, somewhere around there. And it's been great. It's been one of my passions and so forth. And but I mean, you were early on, you were a big part of what we do here as far as that goes.
I worked here. Like I said, I took lessons, did a lot of the recitals and stuff like that, which was great.
Yeah.
And at one time I lived not in this part because there was nothing here. It was just a garage. Yeah. But I lived over the store for a few years.
Yeah.
And that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
To live over a music store and down on Main Street.
Down on Main Street. Yeah, exactly.
So I've been happy to be involved here, and I was thrilled to have you ask me come do this. It's a great thing.
So when you left here, I mean, how did your musical journey begin? I know you've been singing for a long time. You've got an awesome voice, and I know you were involved with a couple groups. In fact, one of the groups here, I think, what was it?
The Big Six.
The Big Six, right? With
Ed Macenti.
Ed Macenti and so
Who
forth.
still teaches here?
Yes, he does.
Yep.
He's been here 27 years.
Ed's a great guy, yeah.
Yeah.
And I was real lucky. That was maybe 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
That was great. It was a good band. We had a good time.
Yeah, no.
Joe Bart.
Oh, yeah.
Gordy Folsom.
Yeah.
Which was a pleasure to work with. It was a great bunch of guys, and it was very different for me because it was the first experience that I had where I didn't have a guitar in my hand.
Yeah.
Which is the usual thing is I've always performed with a guitar in my hand.
Sure.
And it takes a little getting used to like what do you do?
Yeah.
The
guitar to a certain extent is like a security blanket, you have your
well, it is.
Or your binky.
It really is. So actually that was probably my second experience, but I was getting used to it. Before that, the previous thing that I did, I had I had sang in Elevation, which was the U2 tribute band. If you remember, I get to play.
Oh yes, yeah.
So, but if you go way back to when it started, I actually started playing guitar back in 1978.
Okay.
And my inspiration to play guitar, honestly, was the opening theme to the Dukes of Hazzard, where it had Waylon Jennings. And it just showed his guitar, and I always wanted. It was just so cool. And 1978 Christmas, my parents bought me a Gibson SG copy.
Yeah.
Ventura.
Yeah.
And a little Fender Champ amp.
Yeah.
And I started off playing electric.
Yeah.
Took guitar lessons with Mr. Ned Garner at the junior high school back when they called it the junior high school.
The junior high school. That's a flash in the past. Ned Garner, my God.
Yep. And I studied all the way through high school with him.
Nice.
Right in school.
Yeah, yeah.
And for singing, you know, I honestly didn't do the two of them together for quite some time. My first experience with singing and liking to sing was actually an influence that I got through my mother. My mother was a huge Everly Brothers fan.
Really? Okay.
And she had quite a few of their records. And, you know, I had two brothers and a sister. There was 6 of us in a small house. And my hideaway was in the attic.
Uh-huh.
You know, when it wasn't too hot or too cold, I was up there. And there was a little record player that my dad had bought my mom, I think, for their anniversary or something once.
Really?
Before we even came along. It was one of those ones that the speakers fold out. And you can carry it like a suitcase.
Yeah.
And she had this this album, which is the greatest hits album, The Fabulous Style of the Everly Brothers. And I used to sit up there and I learned every song singing Don Everly's part. And after I had them all down, I was like, why didn't I learn the other one too? So I went back and I listened along and I learned Phil's part for every song.
All the harmonies.
And everyone asked me to, like, how do I learn to do harmony, teach harmony? I'm like, well, nobody ever taught me. It was the Everly Brothers.
Yeah,
so I tell them, take 5 Everly Brothers songs, learn both parts, and by the time you're done and you have them down, you'll know how to sing harmony.
Absolutely. They were one of the best in doing that.
They were, and I was actually lucky enough to see them 4 or 5 times, and I met them at the old Oakdale Theater.
Okay, and around.
Which is a pleasure. Even at their older age in the late 80s when I saw them, their voices were still
tight.
They're still primo.
Oh, nice.
So that was my inspiration to sing. I did a little bit of chorus work in
high school.
young school first.
Okay.
And then most of the time it was Christmas choir with Ann Maselli at the church.
I remember that.
In my early teens.
In fact, I used to play up there in the choir loft.
In the old church before the fire there.
Yeah.
And I had a great time doing that because you'd start a month ahead time and,
Well, Ann was meticulous and, having things just right, between Ann and Rose. Used to sing, and of course, Rose used to sing a lot of the harmonies, and Ann was, obviously playing the organ and so forth. But, it was great.
Which was one of the nice things that she did for me was she didn't always assign me a part. She let me do what I wanted because I could follow along and sing. So sometimes I would sing with the girls doing the harmony parts from the guy section.
Yeah.
And she just kind of gave me free rein, and that was always fun.
Yeah.
And then I joined chorus. They honestly didn't have men in the chorus.
Really?
They didn't have boys in the chorus in the high school till I was a sophomore.
Wow.
When they expanded it.
And who was the chorus teacher up there?
That was Ned Garner.
Ned Garner. Okay. All right. Yeah.
He extended the chorus.
Yeah,
and we went to some competitions and the state things and stuff. And that's my first real performance thing with a group.
Yeah.
Had my first solo, I think, as a senior.
Yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody. I had one little part in it.
Nice. Nice.
So that was singing, and the funny thing is I didn't actually play guitar and sing at the same time until in my early 20s, and it was tough because I hadn't done them together, and I went to try to do them together, and I couldn't figure it out. And if I recall, there was something we did downstairs. And I don't know if it was an official recital or something.
Okay.
That you and I did "Needle in the Damage Done" from Neil Young, and the first time that I actually played guitar and sang publicly was in this building.
Nice.
So a lot of things happened for me
here
in this building, which is why it's nice to be back.
Oh man.
And then I didn't really play solo for a little while.
Uh-huh.
The first band I was in was a version of JD and the Buzz, where actually I played bass guitar.
Okay, yeah.
Which was an accident.
Okay.
Luke Gilmet from the Great Hill Mountain Band was in a different band that was breaking up. They had 2 more gigs. Their bass player had left.
Yeah.
They, it was more of a rock and roll with a country feel.
Okay.
And the bass player they hired was a metal guy, showed up in spandex pants and stuff. It just didn't fit in. So they asked me if I would play bass. They got me a bass guitar and an amp, and I spent a month learning the songs, and we did it. Yeah, we played 2 gigs, one in Hartford. It was my first gig playing at the Hungry Tiger.
Okay, there you go.
Which was fun.
Yeah.
And that was a good band. Luke Gilmet, Greg Johnson from Mixed Signals.
Yeah.
I worked with him quite a bit. I knew him in high school. So that was my first experience. And then JD and the Buzz, which was John Dixon.
John Dixon, yes.
Yeah, he grew up in Portland.
Yeah.
Bob Smeagol was our drummer. His brother Scott was our guitar player. And Greg Johnson was a keyboard player. They needed a bass player, and they were hard to find. And
bass players are hard to find.
Nobody wanted the job.
Yeah.
So I took that job, and we did that for a few years,
Uh-huh.
which was fun. I got lucky. I found a used bass through a cousin that it was a 73 Precision.
Nice.
And it was a nice instrument. So, which actually I ended up selling a couple years ago, actually to Dan Gilmet from the Great Hill Mountain Band. He had borrowed it when his got stolen years ago, and it's been sitting in a closet, and I'm probably not going to play bass again. And
Yeah.
I got it from the Smithwick family.
Yeah.
Through Gary Smithwick.
Yes.
It was his brother's.
Yeah,
He played in a country band.
Yeah.
The back of it had the belt buckle.
Oh, yeah, there's the rash.
The belt buckle rash
Yeah.
and everything on it. And when I bought it, I promised I would try to sell it to somebody in the family. So Dan is related to all of them.
Sure.
So, I was happy to give it to him. He gave me a good price for it, more than I paid for it, and I know he'll use it and value it. It's in the family. So I played bass with JD and the Buzz for a few years.
I remember that, yeah.
And then, of course, as young bands happen, egos happen.
Oh,
People get married.
Personalities.
They go to college.
Oh,
personalities. They get real jobs. That band kind of went by the wayside.
Yeah.
I'm still in great contact with John Dixon. I always have been. He was a great friend in high school. He's, of course, got his production company.
John does a lot of film, doesn't he?
Frontline Productions.
I've seen some of
Glastonbury.
Yeah, he does some great work.
Oh, he goes all over the world.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that you see on TV with the car commercials and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of it. You don't know it's him. And
Right.
the thing about John is he started that business when he was, I think, in his early 20s.
Yeah.
And he actually started it in his parents' house, in his bedroom on the second floor.
Yeah.
Which, oddly enough, John Gilmet, Luke Gilmet's younger brother, now lives in John Dixon's house where he started the business. So,
See, there you go.
I'm connected to a lot of
Everything
people.
is connected in the dots.
Right. So I stayed in contact with John. And after that, I just couldn't find anyone to really play the kind of music that I wanted to do. And my acoustic guitar playing had come a long way. So I decided to start solo work. And my first solo gig was 30 years ago.
Really?
At down at Farrell's restaurant back when Farrell's was doing music. So
I remember.
This is actually my 30th anniversary year of playing solo.
Amazing.
Yeah, of playing out. So I did that for a while and had a great time.
Yeah.
And then I was in other bands. There was another rendition of JD and the Buzz in the early 90s with John Dixon.
Now, what were some of the clubs that you guys played with them?
In the first one, back actually what used to be Tuscany Grill, before that it was it the Opera House?
Yes.
Over there, the building. Before they changed the bar to the rock. We played there.
Yeah.
We played at a place in New Britain, I think called the Nut or the Nutmegger.
Nutmegger, yes.
We did that, and then mostly flatbed trailer parties in people's backyards.
Those are the best kind.
That included kegs and stuff.
There you go.
You know, it was it was a time period.
Keeps things flowing, man.
And
back in the day, those were the days of the beer fests and all that kind of stuff.
It was a lot different, and we did a lot of work out in Moodus at I think at the time it was the Hilltop, and then it became Knuckleheads.
Yeah.
And I think now it's a barbecue place.
Yes.
But we started working out there quite a bit too.
Yeah.
And I did that with both bands.
Yeah.
Both renditions of JD and the Buzz. The second one was John Dixon and his wife Tracy.
Yeah.
Who's a great singer and should sing more. If you see this, Tracy, you should sing more.
I'm sure she's going to see it.
David Tozier was our drummer. And,
okay.
And David Tozier used to live at the end of my street when he lived in Portland, and he moved back to East Haddam.
Okay.
But I always kept in contact with him.
Uh-huh.
And Todd, someone else on bass. What was his last name? I can't remember. He was a great player and an odd fellow, but he just was a musical mastermind.
Really?
And he'd make us the charts, and
wow,
he was just easy to work with. So we did that for a few years, and then John and Tracy decided they were going to get married and have kids.
Okay.
And then there was another band that kind of came out of that where we had two drummers, Bob Smeagol and Dave Tozier. There was two drummers on stage. It was called WABC, which was the Women's Auxiliary Booster Club.
Okay.
A guy named Steve Grubb on bass guitar, which,
we
lose people along the way. He passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
And another student from here was a guitar player with John Dixon, and Doug Rourke was a guitar player, but the student from here was Matt Solak.
Yes, I remember Matt. Matt was my student there for years.
And Matt, he just became a monster player.
Yeah,
and he was just this quiet guy, and he was just easy to work with. I did some solo work with him or duo work on and off with him. He was a great kid. And somehow John Dixon got a gig playing down in New York City. I think it was '98, in July of '98, at the in the band shell in Central Park.
Wow,
which you see in movies and stuff like that. And they asked me if they wanted my vocals. They didn't need another guitar player because they had three.
Yeah.
So they let me play bongos. They gave me a couple of sets of bongos, different sizes, some sticks and brushes, and I got two drummers on either side of me doing everything. So I didn't have to do much but sing.
Okay, there you go.
But it was my first experience singing in New York City, which was a hoot.
Nice.
And then the whole time I was doing solo work, I branched out, did more bass work with Doug Rourke in a couple of different bands. He's out of Moodus. He's a good friend of mine. I still play with him now. So I just always kept in it.
Really? Okay.
Playing with different bands.
Now you also do some solo. You have a sax player that plays with you, right?
Yeah, he comes later on in the story.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, actually, I got a call from Dave. The next big thing I think was it'd have to be about 20 years ago when I got the call from Dave Tozier. And he was in the military full time, and he was more home with his kids, and he had an idea that he wanted to start a U2 tribute band.
Yeah.
And originally he called me up and asked if I wanted to play the guitar part, and I said, well, the Edge's work is a little intricate, and I'm a little more basic. I'm more of a chord player, but he knew this other monster player from out in Moodus. I don't know what it is with the water out there, but Moodus, they have some some good players.
Yeah.
But a big, huge, tall guy, Will Dallas.
Okay.
And he loved U2, and he was in. So it was me, him, Dave, and we got a friend through Matt Solak, the gentleman Mike Sell.
Okay.
And he was a bass player, and we asked him to join, and we did that for a few years. And that was a heck of a lot of fun, because I would dress up like Bono, put the glasses on. And Bono, besides the Everly Brothers, was my biggest vocal influence.
Really?
Growing up. I mean, because I loved their music since 1979 when I heard their first single. I saw them countless times. And I just the guy had a monster set of pipes.
Yeah.
When he first started. And it was just powerhouse singing, and I would drive my family nuts because I do it around the house. I drive my mother nuts because you could hear me all the way down the street, and I learned to just bellow out these Bono parts, which I was happy I could do, but it was kind of funny when I started playing solo. I got comments from a couple of other musician friends that were like, everything you sing, you sound like Bono. So I had to sort of unteach myself to sound like Bono when I started playing solo. And then I got this invite to be Bono in this tribute band, Elevation. And then I had to reteach myself to sing like Bono.
Yeah. Wow.
But I had a great time. We used to play at this club down in New London, Hannafins, which it was owned by an Irish gentleman who grew up in Ireland. He moved here, raised his kids here, and he wanted to open an Irish pub. So he went back to Ireland. He went to tag sales and estate sales, and he bought all this furniture and all these different pieces and fireplaces. He had them shipped here to the United States.
Get the ambiance.
To get the ambiance, and he found an old bank building across from the Guard Art Center down in New London.
Yeah.
And it was down there. So we had some great gigs down there.
Wow.
And the police down there loved him. Loved him. The town loved him because he ran a good business. And one St. Patrick's Day, he decided he was going to ask the town if they'd let him close down half the street next to the Guard Art Center, put up a tent, and they agreed to do it. They
really,
yeah.
Okay. Well,
So we had a tent out there. He had the Guinness trailers. He had two bartenders pouring Guinness on St. Patrick's Day, and a Guinness pour is hard to do, from what I'm told. There's an art to it, and it takes time. And every single one of those beers that those girls did in a flash had a perfect shamrock in the foam.
Nice.
Right. So my biggest problem was I woke up sick that morning.
Oh God.
Where I had I had laryngitis. I couldn't sing, and of course it was St. Patrick's Day. And since then, my doctor determined that I have seasonal allergies, which towards the end of the wintertime are the worst.
Yes.
Which I didn't know.
Yeah.
So there was nothing I could do over the counter to treat it. Years later, I found that. So I had almost no voice. So we're at this party on the street, and I'm doing the best I can, but they're all Irish people at an Irish pub.
Yeah.
You choose the biggest Irish band you could think of.
Yeah.
They all knew the words. So the crowd basically
sang
sang every song.
Nice.
So that was a thrill. That was just a great time to do. And we played a few more gigs with that. And then there was a chili festival over at the old Tuscany Grill out in the back. And the unfortunate thing was Dave actually our drummer had been deployed. He was still in the Guard.
Yeah.
And I want to say back then it was Afghanistan. So he was over in the desert. So we got Brian Caudle, who you might know.
Yeah. Brian's been on the podcast.
Yep. He filled in for Dave. And it was a whole festival of bands. And John Dixon, being as advanced already at this time, it was probably 20 years ago with his business, he had contacts all over the world. So he proposed the idea, why don't I get someone from the other side of the world who I know to bring a screen and a setup, which they did. So they brought a screen over, and it was timed perfectly. It was night over there. So Dave and his unit in the desert watched a screen and watched the entire show from over in Middletown behind Tuscany Grill live.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which was a thrill. I mean, Dave couldn't be with us, but that was kind of a neat thing.
Oh, really? Yeah.
That was kind of a neat thing.
There you go. That's John's forte, man. That's right in his wheelhouse. That's what he does. Going back to U2. Okay, what's your favorite U2 album?
Oh, that's a tough one to answer. As an album, I mean, there's just so many different facets because there's different time periods.
Yeah.
The first three albums were very basic, very simple, and I sort of liked that as far as the technology. They were using the delays and the reverbs and some of the effects, but everything was analog.
Yeah.
And there was a certain basic sound to that. And then they came out with Unforgettable Fire. I think late 83,
Okay.
early 84. And that's when they started to really emerge using the effects a little bit more.
What was their first album?
Their first album actually was Boy.
Okay.
The second one was October.
Okay.
The third one was War.
Yeah.
And War is when they got really noticed. The one with Sunday Bloody Sunday.
Okay.
New Year's Day was on it.
Oh, yeah.
But they're very basic. They're very analog. And then Unforgettable Fire, that album was the one with Pride in the Name of Love.
Okay.
And that was when they really exploded throughout the world. And then the biggest album I think they had was the one after that, the Joshua Tree.
Yeah, Joshua Tree.
And I would say if I had to pick only one that I could listen to, it would probably be the Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
But they've got so many stuff before that, stuff after that.
Well, that's, and in the podcast we've been doing, I think, the Beatles are like that. When they first came out, they were, with the bubble gum and the poppy gum, and then they kind of transgressed into, the different aspects of their career. Kind of the same way,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And the Beatles put out a huge amount of material in a short time.
Yeah.
Because they weren't together all that long.
No.
If you really look at it, the time period.
Thanks to Yoko.
Yeah, right. The Yoko syndrome, which comes up in bands.
Oh, yeah.
There's always the girlfriend of someone. Oh, I know fashion, and my girlfriend can do our fashion.
Oh, yeah.
You got to keep Yoko out of it.
Okay.
So I would say the Joshua Tree, and I got extremely lucky. I saw them on that tour. We slept out for tickets in front of, and I can't. It was a pharmacy in Middletown that we slept out for tickets. A whole bunch of friends, so we got tickets for every night. Pelton's,
yes, Pelton's
with the Ticketron there.
Yeah.
And I got to see them 4 times on the Joshua Tree tour. 3 nights in a row in Hartford, and then one of the 2 nights they did in the old New Haven Coliseum.
Now, where was Hartford? The Xfinity, or is that?
That was at the Civic Center.
The Civic Center. Okay, I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, and it was such a moving show. At the time, for the last previous tours, they'd end their show with the song 40, which was loosely based on Psalms, and it was at the end on I think it was Psalm number 40, and it was at the end of the War album, the one with Sunday Bloody Sunday, the studio version, and I think it was the Edge picked up the bass and just did this little thing, and then the bass player picked up the guitar, and Bono just sang some lyrics, which came out of Psalm 40, and they started doing it at the end of their show, and the last part of the chorus is how long to sing this song, and in all 4 shows I saw in Hartford, it gives you the goosebumps. But the entire, they would stop playing, they would play 40 at the end, and then the whole crowd singing how long to sing this song, and we didn't stop. We were in the parking garages, we were in the streets, and it was just this unified feeling, which I was amazed with.
Wow.
I was amazed with, and they don't do that any longer, but it was a treat. So the Joshua Tree. It was just an amazing.
Yeah, I think that was probably their biggest album, though.
It was, and then they had a resurgence in the early '90s with All That You Can't Leave Behind, with Beautiful Day.
Oh, okay.
When you go down the list, there's more songs than a lot of people realize. And I got lucky. They did the 30th anniversary tour of the Joshua Tree, and I got to see that twice.
Oh, okay.
I got to see it. I think it was at Foxborough. The new Foxborough building, and then I got to see it at MetLife down in New Jersey, which it was the biggest stadium that I've ever been.
God, it had to be 30,000 people there.
I think it's more like 60 or 70.
Really?
I mean, it's 5 or 6 levels. I'd never been to a place that big, and I'm so lucky that my good friend Karen Ortiz, she's been a U2 fan for years. She's in the U2 fan club and stuff. So when tickets come out,
she's on it.
She gets first choice of tickets. So I had great seats, and she took me to 4 U2 shows in the last 10 years, and I couldn't be happier. I got to see the Joshua Tree tour twice, and then they did another tour maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I can't think of the name of the tour, but I got to see that at the Boston Garden, which I'd never been to the Boston Garden.
Okay, yeah.
And then the last time I saw them was at Mohegan Sun.
Okay.
And we were so close.
Wow.
So, I mean, they're a huge influence on me, and vocally, But the Joshua Tree is amazing.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff it's almost impossible to sing. How he did it at the time, I don't know. And when they had the 30th reunion tour, his voice
was starting to show a little bit.
No, he hit everything perfectly.
Really?
Which is amazing because I know he doesn't have the pipes that he used to. How can you? I'm 56. He's a good 5 or 6 years older than me, and how many nights has that guy sang his heart out?
Yeah, exactly.
But they've been inspiring.
A lot of miles on that voice.
Yeah, yeah. So
that was hard miles too.
Right. So that was the next band I did was the tribute band.
Oh, okay.
And that was my first experience without a guitar. Although I slipped the guitar in for a couple of songs because every once in a while Bono would
pick up.
He'd pick up a guitar, and some things. And then it was the Big Six, with Ed Macenti, Gordy Folsom.
Now Gordy,
Colin Cantalupo.
Yes, Gordy played with.
The Connecticut band that.
Oh God, I can't think of it.
I know you had said you were talking about NRBQ, and it's not that.
No.
But the other big Connecticut band that should have made it.
Yes.
No, not Tire Biter.
No.
That's the other one.
Yeah.
I don't know why I can't.
We'll think of it.
I think we're showing our age, Dave.
You think so? And we got that CRS disease, for sure. So
Gordy was a special drummer.
Yes.
And he complimented me one time, and he had, like I said, he opened for the Allman Brothers, and he played with all these people. He played with this wonderful band that we can't think of the name. And after a couple of rehearsals, he took me aside and he said, your voice is incredible, and you're the singer that I've been waiting for my entire musical career. And to hear that from probably one of the biggest drummers in Connecticut of all time, it made me feel good. So Fountainhead.
There you go.
Right.
You know how I remembered that name? Okay, is my cousin Candy was a big fan, okay, and she had a Fountainhead bumper sticker on her Camaro.
Everybody did.
Yes.
I remember that too.
I
remember that now.
And that's how I remember the name Fountainhead.
At one time, she was a substitute teacher for a while, wasn't she?
She taught at Gildersleeve for years.
Right, but before that, she substituted, because I remember, and if I want to say, was the car that she had the bumper sticker on, was it like one of those AMC Pacers?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't
know.
I think it was a 67 Camaro. That was,
after that, though.
After that.
Yeah. In my era.
I don't know. I don't remember.
But she used to have her plate actually said Candy.
Yes.
Didn't it?
Yeah. Exactly.
I think it was a Pacer.
Yeah.
But this is probably later on, after the cool Camaro period.
Yeah.
But yes, I remember your sister. And
cousin.
yes, it was Fountainhead.
Yes, it was Fountainhead.
And it was
well,
just
the thing
great.
about Gordy too, he was phenomenal, and he had some awesome backup vocals.
He was the backup vocals, and then actually after a little bit of time with them, he did a lot of the lead vocals from behind the drum sets.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of things you can find on YouTube of them, and I spent hours at night sometimes watching them when I couldn't sleep. And
well, I think I got a couple of songs of you guys when you did the Portland Fair that time.
Yes, we did the Portland Fair. Probably. Yeah. We did
because the who was the female vocalist?
That was after.
Oh, okay.
She came after me because I was scheduled to move to Indiana.
Oh, okay.
If you remember.
Right.
And then, of course, I lost my girlfriend. She was diagnosed with cancer the year that we were supposed to move to Indiana.
Yeah, I remember.
So I had bowed out of the band, and they got another singer.
Yeah.
And then everybody went in different directions.
Yeah.
So even when I stayed, there's only a couple of those guys around. We talk about a reunion once in a while.
Well, he's still playing.
Joe is great.
He's, if you ever need a sax player.
That was the thing is I had hooked up with this the sax player I play with now, Mr. Steve Civitello, through a cousin that I never knew on my father's side, who happened to walk up to me at a gig out in Moodus and said, "Oh, I'm your cousin," and I'm like, "What?" And he was a guitar player, and he had a little blues group that he would just play with different players. And Jay Swine was the name of the band.
Okay.
And he hooked us up with a drummer who in college played with Steve Civitello in different college bands and groups with the college.
Okay.
Steve was a sax player.
Okay.
And after that, Steve, I think if I recall, the story was he stopped playing sax.
Wow. 'Cause he
put it down.
I want to say, because we had a Civitello that took lessons here, and I'm wondering if he took sax lessons here with Greg Wilkes.
He's older than me.
Yeah, well, Greg is...
If he came back and started taking voice lessons, it might be.
Yeah.
Because he ended up picking it back up years later.
Okay.
And that's where I met him, was through my cousin Jay Swine. And I actually asked him, and he auditioned to be in the Big Six with Joe.
Yeah.
But it wasn't his thing. It wasn't what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then, we'll move on and talk to how it progressed with him now. But then, Joe covered it. And then we had Lenny Peruti on the keyboards.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He put the other parts in.
Oh, my God. Put all the horn parts in. Yeah.
But Joe surprised me. And he would have 2 or 3 different sax players. I think he played flute.
He plays flute. He plays alto. He plays tenor. And then he bought a baritone, man. He's got that bari.
Right. We were over at the... over in Middletown. It's Sliders now. What's the
Cypress.
place? The old Cypress.
Yep.
We gigged there quite a bit.
Joe and Jimmy were on the podcast.
Right,
here.
and of course I'm singing up front, and Joe's off to the right, and it was a big band. There was 6 of us.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of room with amps and this and that. And when it came time for Joe's solo, I heard 2 saxes, and I'm thinking, who came in and tuned up in the middle of a song that I don't even know is on stage? And I turn and I look over, and he's playing 2 of them at the same time.
2 saxes.
I'd never seen it. I'd never seen that before.
Yeah.
So that was just amazing.
Well, Joe played with me in Jason Smith Quintet for 30
Right.
years. Okay. Him and I and John Kalinowski, and later on Ernie Golnick from East Hampton. As far as that, we played for years, and Joe used to pull that out, the dual sax thing every now and then. But it was
I had no idea he was going to do it. It just surprised the heck out of me.
Yeah.
But he was a great. All those guys were great, and that was a fun time period. I wish things didn't happen the way it did, where I was going to move, and we kind of went our separate ways. I would definitely try to reunion with them.
Yeah. Well, I know Ed. I know Ed enjoyed the band. He was.
And Ed was. Ed was great.
He really
He's
was
a good guy, and I didn't really know him.
Yeah.
Because he taught here afterwards.
Yes.
After I had moved out from upstairs and I wasn't taking lessons here.
Well, Ed was funny because he used to deliver, or work for the Middletown Press, and he used to deliver papers to the paper boys that you remember. He used to have routes and so forth.
They used to drop them off at your house.
He used to drop them off at your house. Well, anyway, he used to deliver and be the room, and he's lived on Marlborough Street for years, and so forth. And then he got crazy one night. He got a DUI, okay, and lost his license. So he was there. So he comes up here and he walks in. He says, and he's like, do you need somebody to work? So yeah. And so he had just moved back from California because he was out in Hollywood.
He was out there playing for a while.
Yeah, he was out there with his band. Saddle Tramp, and they did quite well, and then finally he just realized it was not going as far as he thought it should go, and he just moved back home. But yeah, so he come up here and he says, hey, so he used to walk here after and he started teaching here, and it's like I say, he's been here like 27 years. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's been a while because the Big Six was probably a good 16, 20 years ago. Yeah. And we used to carpool. It worked out good because we were both from Portland and we rehearsed in Middletown. So he'd drive 1 week, I'd drive 1 week. So we carpooled quite a bit.
That's good. That's cool.
So that was a fun thing. And then after the Big Six, I really started to play a lot more. I got lucky. I had done a lot of work over at Tuscany Grill, and I ran an open mic that nobody came to on Thursday nights. It was really just me and a couple other players.
Yeah.
We had one good player, that this guy John Maziarz, who he would come, and he was a great guy. And look him up, John Mays, He's amazing. He's got a couple of bands he works with. He's a teacher in the Hartford school system. He'll play like 5-6 gigs a weekend, and he's just amazing.
Wow.
But mostly it was me.
Yeah.
And I had done that out at Knuckleheads a few years before that. I did about a year of it Thursday nights where it was open mic if people wanted to show up, and one or two would show up once in a while. But it was really just me.
Yeah.
But for me, it was more the experience.
Sure.
It had me out once a week and working on things and working on new songs. And I had gotten to the point where I'm close to where I am now, where instead of just kind of slogging through songs and getting through stuff, I felt like I was adding something artistically.
Right.
So I started playing solo, and one night at Tuscany Grill, the owner of the Aragoni Winery, Ed Manor, was there. With his tasting room manager, and she came up to me in the middle of the song and she said, well, we're running a winery in Portland, which I didn't know about. We're opening up and we're looking for music. So I gave her my card and they called me up, and the first year I think they had one other small band play on their patio before I did, but they gave me every Friday night and Sunday afternoon for a year.
Nice.
So
that's a win-win,
right? And I think I want to say it's 9 or 10 years.
Wow!
And I've been there ever since.
There you go.
And I can't think of anyone besides Ed Manor, the owner, and myself that are still there. I think I've outlasted all the employees.
Everybody. Wow.
But they treat me really well, and it's great now. He's got a stage in the back on this truck. He's got tents, which during COVID was wonderful because it was so much space outside. He started
people wanted to go out.
Serving food, and we could do it. And for me, it was safe. I could be on stage. And I had been working on and off with Steve Civitello, the sax player. I met him, like I said, with my cousin John and Jay Swine. And we just kept in contact and just played here and there. And the thing about Steve is he's like a lead guitar player.
Really?
And because we've been doing what we do, he I wouldn't say he knows my stuff, even though a lot of it's the same, because he doesn't learn all the parts per se. But he plays underneath my vocal and the guitar to the point where you don't so much notice that it's not a voice. He almost plays it like a voice. And then he solos like a guitar player. So for me, I mean, we can make songs 20 minutes long.
Jam band.
And he's just a great guy. He's a pleasure to work with. And it's funny because he asks, "Oh, how did I play?" And I hear him, but I only hear the maybe 5 times in all the gigs we've ever had that he's played a bad note. That's the only thing that stands out. I mean, everything else is just so smooth. But then if someone records us, I'll listen to the recording. We did a few things with a little home studio and stuff. Then I listened to his stuff. I'm like, he's just a great guy. And
a nice thing about that, it gives your voice a little bit of rest.
He gives it a rest, but he compliments.
No, I know. But when he's soloing,
which is nice.
You can kind of back out a little bit, and you don't have to burn your voice out.
True, and it also adds certain things to certain songs. Because when you get to the part where there's a lead and it's a popular song that people know, and there's no lead there. I'm not one to, add things.
Rip out a solo,
Well, how do you do it when you're strumming a guitar? But I'm not one to add like a vocal thing over it. Like one of my pet peeves is, how certain songs they'll use "nah nah." Even like Steve Perry, one of the greatest singers of all, that song "nah nah nah." I'm like, you couldn't come up with a lyric, and I understand that now when you're playing solo, that if you do something vocally during the solo time, it kind of fills it up. And but I just I can't do. So having Steve is wonderful. So it's like having a guitar player.
So when you develop your repertoire, how do you work on new tunes? What do you have a specific
it's developed.
genre?
It's kind of funny. No, I don't. I've been trying to expand out a little bit more now. I mean, when I first started, I was never an advanced guitar player. I took lessons in high school, like I said, in junior high school through Ned Guitar. But to be honest with you, I didn't learn much. The
Yeah.
thing about he would play the piece in the book and then give you the piece to take home, and I would watch and listen to what he was playing, and I'd go home, and instead of learning how to read the music, I would just mimic what he was doing.
Yeah, by rote.
And I got straight A's, you know. So I never learned actual I don't necessarily play like note for note on records and stuff. So basically I'm a chord player. So I would learn. I started with basic 3 or 4 chords. Then of course you discover the capo.
Hey,
and then the capo brings you up and down.
Yeah, you can play in any key.
And like I said, I didn't initially start singing and playing guitar at the same time. So it took me a couple of years to develop to being able to do some more advanced parts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know some of the stuff by heart. I still got these books because you know what it's like. You encounter certain songs that somebody wants to hear once, and you get a request and they want to hear it. And there's a staple that you should have in your repertoire, but you don't have the time to sit down and learn it. Heart, and memorize it by heart.
Yeah.
So you have it in a book. I mean, a lot of people have it in computers, but I still have some of the music sheets that I hand wrote 30 years ago in my book on stage with me.
You go.
I have 3 now. So it's actually kind of nice to have them.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have a lot of those songs. A lot of the songs, I mean, I've been trying to replace some of them now because for a while I was just getting lazy.
Yeah,
really.
Well, too, especially if you have an audience that sees you all the time, it's nice to introduce some new material.
It is.
And
you get it's easy to get in the pattern though of just I'm just going to stay
complacent. Yeah.
Complacent, right? And you just do the ones that you know. So I've been adding them as I come along. So it's a combination. I always try to do something that either people have begged me to learn.
Yeah.
Even if it's something I don't necessarily like, but it's things that I like, things that are vocally attainable for me and that I can sing well, because I try not to do anything that I don't do well.
Okay.
And sometimes it'll be a lesser known song. I'll probably got a half a dozen, maybe 20 songs that some people never heard of.
Right.
By different groups that weren't big.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of Aztec two-step, which were from Connecticut.
Yeah.
But most people aren't familiar with the songs.
Yeah.
But I try, and when I throw those in there, I try to do them so well that it doesn't matter that the people didn't know them. They like them.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
most of my music typically is a little bit older. As of late, there's more of a resurgence of the guitars and vocals, acoustic guitar and vocalists now.
Yeah.
On the radio.
Sure,
And
sure.
on the internet has all these players that, it's not like radio used to be where you get to make an album, you make a CD, a cassette tape, 8-track, whatever it used to be. It's just very different. It's all on the internet.
Right.
But that's starting to come back. So there's some more music available. But most of my stuff is from the 60s, 70s, not much from the 80s. And then the 90s is a period where you think of all the harder groups, but there was a lot of other songs, or they did an acoustic song that work well acoustically.
Yeah.
So, and that was when MTV Unplugged was huge.
Yep.
So I did a lot of that. I would pick out songs from there. But so I try to just do stuff that I really like.
Yeah.
Stuff that's popular, stuff that I do well. And then every once in a while I find something just by accident that works.
What's your most requested song?
My most requested song actually is a song that you wouldn't think that a guy would sing. Is actually Landslide, the Stevie Nicks Landslide.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and I found it by accident. I had been requested to learn to play it so another singer could sing it for someone's service. And I did that, and it was just beautiful to play. And one day I was at home when I started singing along, and I ended up finding a part of my range which I never thought of. But that's probably my most requested song right now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
It was Landslide.
Wow. Stevie Nicks. My God.
and I'm amazed that I'm happy I can do it. I usually do it later because I have to be warmed up for it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Especially when she hits that long note, and I try to powerhouse that note, and
Yeah.
showboat it and, do it as long as I can.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's probably my most requested song.
Nice.
And then,
Second requested song.
Second requested song. Well, it used to be With or Without You from U2.
Oh, okay.
That's another one. The nice thing about being at the winery is you're up on the stage so far away from the people, so you don't get a lot of requests.
Yeah.
But I would say those two.
Nice.
Those two. And then there's the ones that I do at every gig that I feel like I do really well.
Yeah.
And with Steve, it's great. Like, we do a great rendition of Into the Mystic.
Nice.
We do that really nice.
Nice.
And that's one of my favorites. I guess let's say that it's one of my favorite ones. Instead of worrying about what's my most requested, one of my favorite ones is that one.
Wow.
We do a good rendition of What's Going On from Marvin Gaye.
Yeah.
And then lately, I've tried to add things. And being a vocalist and liking certain songs that aren't in my key, it's a capo.
There you go.
Right. And but the other thing is sometimes they'll throw you those drop tunings, like a drop D, or everything's recorded a half step down or a full step down.
Right.
And I just don't have enough guitars, and I don't want to lug 5 guitars to have different tunings on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
I like to have the one and the backup. So I started trying to find ways using the capo to get around that.
Yep,
I saw one guy play once, and he had a little case of capos, and he had them all over the place, and he, it's really intricate. But I was just like, I always wanted to learn the song Copperhead Road by Steve Earle, which came out in '88.
Yeah.
It's a little bit low for me. It's in drop D tuning, and the drop D just never worked for me. It takes too much time to turn it down.
Yeah. And tune it
It was
back
just
up.
a little bit below my range. So I said, how do I do this? So I took the capo and I put it upside down, and I left the, on the second fret, but I left the bottom E open.
Oh, okay.
And so I do it. It's almost like drop D or drop E tuning.
Oh,
it's
okay.
like D tuning moved up.
Okay.
And I started doing it, and you wouldn't know that it's in a different key.
Wow.
And that's one that I added recently, which I enjoy playing with.
Yeah.
There's another group of guys, which includes Steve, John Dixon, Doug Rourke, a couple other guys, Robert Moncavo, his brother Pete Moncavo, and a good friend of mine, John Cronin. And we just added a female vocalist, and we call ourselves the Four Horsemen. And it's just a group of guys that I'll book a gig, and most of them don't want to get paid, and me and Steve get paid, and whoever can come just volunteers, and we just do stuff off the cuff.
Nice.
And I invited them about a month ago at the brewery.
Okay.
And I threw Copperhead Road that way, and it was probably the best thing that we've ever done as a group.
Right.
So we're actually going to be down there. I think it's Sunday, May 24th, where it's listed, and now the group is exploded, where it's a revolving group of 9 people. We call ourselves the Four Horsemen, and there's a woman now too.
Okay.
But we still do.
We had a few more.
Yeah. So Copperhead Road's one, and then another one that I recently added, which I had tried to learn way back in the '80s. I was a fan of Harry Chapin.
Yeah.
And it's not that he's that intricate, but he was quirky.
Yeah.
The way he played, and the song Taxi I loved.
Yeah.
And there's so much going on, and so much that his band did, and I just wasn't advanced enough. And I got frustrated and never looked at it. And someone close to me suggested it recently.
Yeah.
And I was at her house, and she put it up on her TV screen on her phone, and she's like, do you think you could do it? And I just stood there, and I recently added it. And it's funny because a lot of people don't remember the song, younger people, but anybody who remembers the song Taxi knows every word.
Sure.
And there's always 2 or 3 people in the audience. I've probably done it a handful, maybe 5 times now. Oh. And there's always 5 or 6 people. They know every word. And the thing about that is I had a really good falsetto back when I was much younger.
Yeah.
Bono used falsetto quite a bit. I don't have it all the time, But there's that song, that part in Taxi, that Big John Wallace.
Yeah.
I think he was either the cello player or the bass player, and he sang it, but it's a different kind of falsetto.
Okay.
It's almost he more sounds like a woman, a guy trying to sound like a woman in falsetto. So I've been trying to do it that way. I've only succeeded doing it live twice. So it's given me something to kind of work for.
Wow.
Vocally, but that's going to be a favorite for me.
Nice.
To play.
Nice. All right. So I don't know if you've listened to any podcasts. John always has questions. Okay.
Sure. Go
Okay.
right ahead. I ramble on. So
No. That's all right. And one of the questions he always said, are you a consistent practicer of your instrument?
No. I've been trying to get on that. As of late, I try to do it more.
Okay.
I try to do it more. For me, a lot of it is I'm very private about learning it because I perform, and I rent in a multi-apartment, an apartment building with multi-people in it and stuff. And my schedule, I'm usually not out of work till 8:30 at night.
Yeah.
It doesn't work with everyone else's schedule. So when I lived here at the music store,
It was no problem.
I was working third shift.
Yeah.
In a residential home.
Yeah.
And I would play all night long at full volume.
Yeah.
Just 20 feet over there.
Yeah.
I don't have the luxury of doing that anymore.
Wow.
So a lot of times when I'm inspired, and I just had a hard time the last 6 years after I lost my girlfriend Jenny.
Yeah.
After she passed away, just a hard time just getting motivated to do it. So
I know.
lately I have been.
Yeah.
So now I'm trying. So
Okay.
not generally to answer that question, but I'm working on it.
There you go. All right. Now there's a desert island food. Okay. If you
Food?
Yeah. If you could only eat one thing every day, what would it be?
Well, I'm type 2 diabetic, so it's a double-edged question because it's
Okay.
if it's the only thing that I can eat and I'm stuck on a desert island, if it's the thing that I want, I'm not going to be alive very long. But if I eat the stuff that's going to keep me alive very long, I'm stuck on this island for a long time.
On a salad. Okay.
Right. I'd have to say pizza.
Okay.
I can't.
Pizza's all right.
I can't stay away from pizza.
Pizza.
But I guess cheese. Just say cheese.
Okay.
Make my doctor happy. Cheese, because I love cheese. I'm like a big rat.
Before you, we had, speaking of pizza, okay, John had, one of his guests was Dean Falcone. I don't know if you did. Dean is a music producer down in New Haven. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And
I know he works with Shelley, the Shelley Velasquez experience, I believe.
Yeah, well, he also produced the Pizza Story of New Haven, okay, which is
okay.
basically what they do is they chronicleize, the supposedly pizza was invented in New Haven. So now you got the big three. You got Sally's, you got Modern, you got Pepe's, and I think, whatever. But anyway, the night that Dean showed up, to do the podcast, he brings 3 Sally's pizzas up here.
Oh, really?
Oh man, I had never had a Sally's pizza.
Oh, New Haven pizza's the best.
Oh my God, it's just like holy Christ.
Yeah,
it was great. And he says, pizzas are, he's an aficionado as far as pizza goes.
I've never met Dean, and I knew Shelley, who I believe he plays with, when she was young through a friend of mine I used to work with at Elmcrest, Ed Velasquez.
Yes.
Who he's got a studio, and he works with a studio out of Boston. That's what he's been doing for a living.
Right.
So what a goof.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
So is there like any leftover for me at the end of the show?
Those have long gone. So, you mentioned Elmcrest. Speaking of Elm, have you been over there lately?
I'm not allowed on the property without trespassing.
Okay.
But
you'll have to.
But I could see it. I could see that there's nothing left with the mansions.
There's nothing left. If you want, I took pictures. There's pictures on the town website, Brainerd Place. Okay, you can see.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll go and look it up because I've been following that because I worked there 7.5 years.
Yeah, well, as you know, I grew up on Perry Avenue.
You were the last house on the right.
The last house on the right. My parents was the next to the last house on the right. But I took pictures before and after, and then they go down there now, or when they tore down the houses, all it was torn down.
There's no houses left on that side of the street anymore.
Only Markham's house is left.
They were the only ones who didn't.
Well, he knew Fred Hassan, who's the owner of the property,
Yeah,
and they worked
right.
out a deal. He's supposed to be out of there this month.
So they're going to take that one
they're
too.
taking that
I knew
one
they're
too.
expanding it.
Yeah,
I'm glad they saved the mansions.
Yes.
And the Historical Society did a wonderful job. I've been following it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was always wanted to go back there.
Yeah.
When I left there and moved to a different place because it was unsafe.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, before the awful incident where the young man
Yeah.
lost his life there, safety was an issue for me, and that's why I left. But oddly enough, I had when I left, somehow I had come upon, and nobody wanted it back. Nobody wanted responsibility for why it was missing. But I had a master key to everything in the place.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Which I still have somewhere, but I don't think it's any good now
No, it's
because
not good
everything's
anymore.
gone.
Anyway, awesome. Fantastic. So, anyway, Paul, hey, thanks so much for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
I think this is great. And again, you bring it, and it's amazing as we do these podcasts. It's amazing how all of the dots connect in one way or another. Dean, and
Oh, yeah.
John Dixon, and unbelievable. So thank you so much. Right. So before you go, anything else?
Well, the 10th year in a row or 9th year in a row, I'm going to do the shameless plug. Me and Steve Civitello at the Aragoni Winery, which is on Mother's Day, our annual Mother's Day gig. We do it every year, 1:30 to 5:30. So me
Mother's
and Steve
Day.
Yep.
All
Mother's
right.
Day.
Be
Thank
there
you.
or be square. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our John Peckman podcast. I'm your host, Dave Kuzminski, filling in for John, who was quarantined last week and unfortunately has COVID this week. So Paul Mr. Sienkiewicz was here. And as John always says, that is all. If you'd like to start your own podcast, give us a call at Connecticut Valley School of Music and Dance. Our professionally designed podcast space is here for all your recording needs. Rent out our studio to do interviews with up to 4 people, to record audiobooks, social media content, and all other recorded material. Our rentals include a private studio along with our professional-grade podcasting equipment, and we can customize your output to whatever your needs are. We also have green screen capabilities, which will expand to video capability if you so wish. So check us out here at convalley.net.